What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're doing well. To start out, we have some MLB free agency moves. Although San Francisco Giants signed Justin Verlander a year for $15 million. So Verlander's going to be 42 next year. Struggled last year with the Astros. Had a 5.48 ERA last year. 74 strikeouts, 1.38 whip. So he had a rough go of it. Obviously, he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a 9-time All-Star, 3-time Cy Young Award winner, a former World Series champion with the Houston Astros. He signed with the Mets a couple of years ago. Got off to a really bad start. It looked like it was over, though started to pitch better as the trade deadline approached 2 seasons ago. And then two seasons ago, was traded to the Astros at the trade deadline. Pitched pretty well for them, ended up having a pretty good year. Last year, the Astros, of course, he exercised his option, so he was back with the Astros, but did not go very promising. Had a lot of injuries. Missed a lot of time with a lot of arm problems when he was on the field. Did not pitch very well. I really don't know what this guy has left. He is 41 years old right now. He is going to be 42 pretty soon. So I really don't know what this guy has left to give. But it's for a year, so not a whole lot of risk there. $15 million. Giants probably need another arm in their rotation after you lose Blake Snell in free agency. He ended up signing with the Dodgers, was one of the first big names off the board. So I guess he's a replacement. Again, I really don't know what Verlander has left. Remember, this guy is 41, going to be 42. He had Tommy John, 4 or 5 years ago? Maybe even less than that. And he's 41 years old, going to be 42. So I'm not really sure what he has left. All-time great, obviously, but I'm not really sure what he has left in the tank at this point. And also, Brent Rooker signed an extension with the Oakland Athletics. Well, not the Oakland. Yes, they're technically still Oakland. They're going to be Sacramento for 3 years, and then I'm going to go into Vegas in a few years. 5 years, $60 million, a $22 million option that could vest for a 6th season, which would bring it to 6 years, and a total of $72 million. That's a great deal for the A's. 5 or 6 years, only $12 million a year, and $22 million in the possible last year. He's become a star over the last 2 years. 2 years ago, the A's was an all-star. Hit 246, 30 homers, 69 RBIs, 817 OPS. Complete breakout year last year. Hit 293, 39 home runs, 112 RBIs. Had 365 on base, 562 slugging, and 927 OPS. Really flew under the radar because he played on just a garbage athletics team, but he emerged as one of the best power bats in the entire league last year, and he hit 290, one of the best players in the league, honestly, last year. He was very, very underrated. He is a star. He's 30 years old, but took him a while to get to the big leagues. Did not come up until he was 25 or 26. Did not play. Was on a full-time regular until two seasons ago when he was 28 years old. So he's going to be 30, but does not have a lot of mileage on him. He's a guy, most guys by the time they hit, 32, 33 are starting to decline. By the time they're 35, 36 is when they're really towards the end. He's a guy I could see still, being a similar player to what he is now, even at 35, 36 years old, because he only has just over 1,200 at bats, and he's gonna be 30 years old. 1,200 bats. Some guys have that in like 2 years, and a majority of his bats have come in the last 2 years, obviously, but. That's a big move for the A's, who have had a sneaking good offseason. You add Luis Severino to your rotation, as well as Jeffrey Springs via trade. Now you lock up Brent Rooker. Obviously, you haven't traded away Mason Miller. He's a stud closer that you have. A's, I don't expect them to make the playoffs next year, but they could be a competitive team next year. They did get a little better last year. 2 years ago, they were as bad as it gets in this league. And they weren't a complete embarrassment. The organization wasn't embarrassing with John Fisher and them, leaving Oakland and everything that was going on with that. The team on the field wasn't good, but it wasn't horrendous. It wasn't like they were the White Sox last year, who won 40 games. The year before, I don't think they had 60 wins. They at least had 70-something wins last year. 72, 73 wins, 68, whatever it was. It's not good, but at least it's progress. And now you make a couple of moves, they may be trending in the right direction after all. And one more thing, Ashton Gentry has declared for the draft. Not much of a surprise there. He'd be top running back in this class for sure. He will definitely be a first-round pick. I'm not one who thinks he should, take a running back super high, even in the first round. That being said, Dallas Cowboys sitting there at 12. it's going to be hard to pass him up at 12th overall pick because he's a special player. All right, NFL coaching carousel continues in the NFL. The Las Vegas Raiders have fired Antonio Pierce, fired him a couple of days ago. After 1.5 seasons, basically, he took over as the interim coach 2 seasons ago, midway through after they fired Josh McDaniels. Kept the full-time job last year after making a very positive impact on the organization as well as the players. But did not go very well this year. Was pretty much a disaster. 4-13 this year. They have a 6th pick in the draft. Very bad. Look, I don't think Pierce is a great NFL head coach. However, I don't know where you go from here. The Raiders, obviously, you paid John Gruden on that huge deal a bunch of years ago. You're still paying him. You're going to be paying 4 coaches. You're still paying John Gruden. I mean, you gave him all that money. You're still, there's still like a whole lawsuit with that. You're still paying Josh McDaniels. You're still paying Antonio Pierce and whoever you hire next. So I don't know. Also, that job is really, really bad. I don't know who would take that job. The roster was atrocious. Outside of Brock Bowers, who is obviously a stud tight end, first round pick this past year, had 110 catches as a rookie. That's just incredible. And Max Crosby was a great pass rusher. There's really no other piece on this team that's really attractive. Like Clay Myers is a decent receiver, but he's a veteran. Only has another year on his contract. There's no quarterback on this roster, and like maybe maybe Tyree Wilson he was a top 10 pick 2 years ago. He's young at least. Other than that, there's nothing. The roster is horrible. The organization is just poorly run. Obviously you're in the same division as the Chiefs. The Chargers are looking like they're going to be a very good team for a while. Even Denver, if Bowman keeps playing well, they're in a pretty competitive division. It's really a horrible job. I don't know who would take that job. I know Tom Brady's part order now. He's going to help with the coaching, sir. I know he reached out to Bill Belichick. Maybe putting the UNC thing on hold and going back to the NFL after all, but he said, I'm not interested. I'm focused on the Tar Heels. But yeah, I don't think he's a great coach. He a lot of times would say after a lot of the games ago, yeah, we're gonna be better. There's gonna be changes, and they really weren't. So I really don't think he is a good head coach. I think he kind of reminds me of like Deion Sanders. Like he's a really good motivator. Well, I think he's a really good guy to have on your staff. I think a guy that players can rally around, and a guy that players like. He obviously played in the league for a while, was a solid linebacker in a while, won a Super Bowl with the New York Giants as a player. And, he's a good guy. I'll keep him on my staff because of the football knowledge that he brings as the next player. When it comes to the X's and O's of the game, I think he just doesn't really have them. I don't mind him, when he gets the full-time job. Unless you're bringing a guy like a Jim Harbaugh or something like that. He made a big enough impact to where, that's what happens when you're an interim coach. You have a team that just, like the Raiders last year under McDaniels, they were miserable. They hated McDaniels. They were just, in the depths of hell of the league. You fire the guy, you bring in a guy named Pierce that the players like. The guy he's an ex-player, so, he's able to relate to the players a little bit more. It sparks them, and they kind of, basically lights a fire under their ass. They play a little bit better. They were much more competitive down the stretch. He keeps the full-time job. Players were excited. Before they were kind of forced. Otherwise, Devontae Adams would have requested a trade, though he ended up doing so anyway. Just a couple of months later. Max Crosby would have requested a trade. Would have been a disaster. So, they kept him, but then now, reality sets in. He might be a good guy, but as a head football coach, really just isn't really qualified. That being said, I don't know what you were. The roster's horrible. I don't think he would have become a great head coach. Like I said, I think he kind of reminds me of like Deion Sanders. Great motivator. But not really a great X's and O's guy. In fact, I think he might be a pretty good college head coach, Antonio Pierce, because of how well he's able to relate to. He's able to relate to these guys. He played in the league for a while, was a successful player in the league. And how much his players respect him. So he might actually work out in college. You know, obviously college is a whole different ballgame with NIL and stuff. But I mean, as a college player, you know, if I hear, oh, Antonio Pierce is a guy who's a Super Bowl winning player, was an assistant coach in the NFL for a while, was briefly a head coach in the NFL. Players seem to really like him. I want to go there. I mean, you know, he won't get a job at, you know, Alabama right away, but, you know, he'd be like a Deion, take over a team that, you know, is in a good conference, but he's been really bad, and kind of, you know, sort of just get them back on the right track. I mean, I'm sure he'll get a job as an assistant coach somewhere in the NFL, where I'm not sure if he'll be able to defensive coordinator, but he'll get like a linebackers coach job again. But he was let go by the Raiders. Not sure where they go from there. And this one really shocked me from a GM standpoint. The Titans fired Rand Carfin after 2 seasons. I don't understand this. Okay, look, they are kind of resetting. You know, they obviously are. They're resetting at quarterback. The offensive line needs to be better. They're gonna have a lot of cap space to work with. They have a good amount of picks, including the first pick. You know, not a ton of guys that are free agents should be interested in bringing back. Maybe Sebastian Joseph Day, the defensive tackle. He's a good player. Other than that, there isn't a whole lot of guys over there that I'm like, oh yeah, we have to bring that guy back, kind of thing. So, you know, I see, all right, I guess they're resetting, but he's only there for 2 years. Yes, a lot of things haven't really worked out. You know, 2 years ago, he took Skoronsky in the first round. He was kind of a weird player. Like, you know, he played tackle in college, I think at TCU. And then he was probably better off as a guard, and they've kind of tried him at guard. It hasn't really worked out. He also was, the rest of that line is just dreadful, beyond bad. You know, J.C. Latham's playing left tackle. He really should be playing left tackle. He should probably be playing guard, or at least trying to right tackle. No, he took Will Levis in the second round. That was a complete whiff. So the moves he made haven't really worked out. I mean, Calvin Ridley was pretty good this year. Probably overpaid him, giving him $92 million, but that was a pretty good move. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot that he did. I mean, brought in Brian Callahan. We already know what he is as a coach. Yeah, he had a very bad roster this year. So I just don't really know what they're doing. I mean, is there a attractive job for a GM? I mean, the roster isn't great. However, you have the access to improve it because you have a good amount of cap. You're going to have, you know, well, you're going to be your top 10 in cap. You think you have the 4th most draft cap. You have the first pick in the draft. So you could take, you know, the quarterback that you want. However, you can't hire the coach that you want. So, you know, I mean, you have a young coach there, Brian Callahan, who you just brought in. So, I mean, now there's a new GM. If the Titans, let's say they draft Cam Ward, and because of how young their roster is, depending on what they do in free agency, if they go 5-12 next year and, you know, end up with the 5th or 6th pick again, do you fire Callahan because the GM wants to pick his own coach? That's what happens when you fire a GM but to keep the coach. Well, it usually doesn't work out. It's what happened last time. And also, like, you fired Mike Vrabel, who was one of the best coaches in the National Football League last year, so that the GM could pick his own coach. You let him do that. He picks a guy that the organization thinks is going to lead him to the promised land. And Brian Callahan, a hire that was pretty universally liked last year. And a year later, you fire the GM but keep the coach? Like, I don't know what the Titans are trying to do here. Like, you know, obviously they need a quarterback. They're going to probably need one more receiver. Their offensive line needs a lot of help. Their offensive line is absolutely horrible. Defensively, you know, they're going to need to either re-sign or replace Sebastian Joseph Day. They might need some help in the secondary. So this is not a very good roster. You know, their best chance to win was when they were the 1 seed a couple of years ago. And Tannehill threw 3 picks in the division round against the Bengals. They kind of missed their window there. And, you know, Arthur Smith left to go be a head coach in Atlanta, and then Tannehill fell off a cliff. So I don't really know what the Titans are trying to do here, but the firing of Rand Carver, I'm not sure who they're going to bring in for the next GM. But weird move. Don't really agree with it. I'm not really sure what they're doing. And another small coaching thing, and then we're going to get into the big scope of, we're going to go over who every team has interviewed to this point. The 49ers are removing Nick Sorensen as the defensive coordinator. They're not necessarily firing him. He could remain on the staff lesser role. Apparently, they're looking to bring back Robert Saleh as their defensive coordinator. By the way, I don't know why he's getting head coach interviews. I don't care how bad the Jets' organization is. He was not like a good head coach there, but he's a great defensive coordinator. So, they're looking to bring him back. So Sorensen might stay on the staff, but he will not be back as in the same role last year. And with that, let's go over just every team. Right now, we have 6 openings. The only one that we're waiting on still is Dallas. Mike McCarthy's contract is it officially expires, I think, on the 14th, which is Wednesday. So we don't know exactly what's going on with that. Jerry Jones is going to milk this out probably until the 14th. He loves to do that. It's not smart, but that's what he likes to do. So let's go over the 6 openings we have for coaches and who they've interviewed. The Chicago Bears. They have had a wide search. They have interviews scheduled with Pete Carroll, former Seahawks head coach, Aaron Glenn, the Lions defensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, the Cardinals offensive coordinator, Brian Flores, Vikings defensive coordinator and former Dolphins head coach, Anthony Weaver, the Dolphins defensive coordinator, David Shaw, the Broncos senior personnel executive, was a longtime head coach at Stanford. They requested to interview him. They scheduled an interview with Vrabel. They also requested Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator with the Ravens, as well as Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator with the Bills. Teams like this that have a search this deep, it never works out. By the way, they requested to interview Mike McCarthy, and the Dallas denied his request because he's technically still under contract for another couple of days. It never works out. You can't interview 13 people and possibly be able to whittle that down. I mean, you got to really do is within like a 2-week period. Because, the season, you can't actually, start interviewing some of these guys until, after the divisional round. So, you can't, Brian Flores can interview them for another week because he's still playing. Plus, there's some guys that are probably going to be like, hey, even, if they're in the division round, I know you want to interview me, and I want to be a head coach, but I gotta focus on as the coordinator of the corner of this team, I gotta focus on the team that we're playing right now. Same thing of Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. So, I think Pete Carroll will be a good fit there. He's a really good coach. Was in Seattle for 14 years. He won a Super Bowl. Obviously, I think it's self-explanatory with Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson. I think Aaron Glenn will make a very good head coach, though I'm not sure that's what they need. Joe Brady, I think, will make a very good head coach. But, some of these names on his list. Drew Petzing, the Cardinals offensive coordinator, really? I don't even think the guy's 30 years old. Anthony Weaver, the DC in Miami. At what point did you ever say, we're playing Miami's defense? Oh, no. So, they scheduled to interview Mike Kafka, the Giants offensive coordinator. The Bears, as dysfunctional as their offense was, the Giants' offense was somehow worse. With a lot worse personnel, but... So, you saw the Giants offense and said, we want some of that? Oh, God. I don't get it with their search. The Jaguars, of course, they fired Doug Pearson last Monday. They have scheduled an interview with Aaron Glenn. There's requested Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator with the Bucs, Kellen Moore, the OC in Philly, Tom Monken, Joe Brady, Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator with the Raiders, and Robert Saleh, the former Jets head coach. First of all, I'm telling you right now, do not hire Robert Saleh as a head coach. Again, he's a defensive coordinator. He is not a head coach. That's been proven. Patrick Graham, you saw the Raiders defense. I want some of that. Good Lord. I actually like Liam Cohen. I think he'd be a good fit there. Obviously, he's already down there in Tampa, so just a little pole jump with him. For him, he's a bright offensive mind. He did a really good job down there in Tampa. You saw Dave Canales being the OC he was the OC last year in Tampa. And then I'm getting a head coach job in Carolina. Could be saying how about for Liam Cohen. I like him. Jacksonville, that's such a bad organization. The fucking Shad Khan, he's brutal. I know he's not gonna that just cycles through head coaches. All right, you fire Gus Bradley, or he wasn't great. You bring in Doug Marrone. You had him for a couple of years. You showed a little promise, then the wheels fell off. You tank for Trevor. You get rid of him. You bring in Urban Meyer. And that dumpster fire, you give him a 5-year deal. He doesn't even last a full year of it. Then you bring in, a proven head coach in Doug Peterson. Starts off well, the wheels fall off. You fire him, and what are you doing here? The guy, starts to keep Trent Baalke, which is just unacceptable. The guy is just horrible. The league doesn't even respect the guy. They were surprised when they kept him. And then you go on the Zoom call and say in front of Baalke, like, oh yeah, if a coach doesn't want him there, I'll consider firing him. Like, they're just a disaster. I don't know who's gonna want that job. The roster is horrible. I don't know who would want that job. I'm not really sure who would. And then the Raiders, obviously, they only fired Pierce a couple days ago, so they requested to interview Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, and then Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs defensive coordinator. Again, look, Spagnuolo is a great defensive coordinator. He's won, Four Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator with the Giants and the Chiefs. But he's proven to not be head coach. Some guys are coordinators, not head coaches. And Spagnuolo is one of them. Obviously, their search just started again. But again, if I'm Ben Johnson, I don't want the Raiders job. I would much rather be the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions than be the Raiders head coach. I would much rather that. I don't get it. I don't get why you want that job. The roster is horrible. You have a GM and Tom Telesco. So Tom Telesco was a GM for years with the Chargers. Was the reason they just, year after year came up short. Wasn't very good. Was there for years. The division rival of the Raiders, I want that guy to run my organization. God, Mark Davis is a joke. Also, Ben Johnson wants a lot of money to be the next head coach. They're going to be paying 4 coaches. I'm not sure Mark Davis is going to want to pay Ben Johnson, almost as much as he's paying maybe all his coaches combined. That's going to limit them. The New England Patriots scheduled. They interviewed Byron Leftwich, the offensive coordinator with the Bucs. Well, former OC with the Bucs, and former Texans OC Pep Hamilton. They scheduled to interview Mike Vrabel, of course. He's the favorite for that job, obviously being an ex-player there. He has a very strong relationship with the Patriots organization and the Kraft family. He won the job last year. Obviously, they ended up promoting Gerard Mayo. Of course, he's out. And they requested to interview Ben Johnson as well. I'd be surprised if it wasn't Vrabel. Ben Johnson, that's probably honest. If I'm Ben Johnson, this is the only job I really want. Maybe the Bears job, but if that's the kind of situation. Caleb Williams might get you fired within a couple of years. Vrabel, I think we get that job. Leftwich and Pep Hamilton. That sounds like just trying to fulfill the Rooney role. That's why I think it's going to be Vrabel, because of the connection. He said he only took the Jets interview to put pressure on the Patriots to hire him. Not that they're doing anything that's terrible, but I just think they want Vrabel, so they're trying, and because obviously Vrabel and Ben Johnson don't fall under that category, they're just that's what we're doing. They probably should do that. The rule, to me, I don't think really helps. To be honest, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to give my minority candidates more opportunities, and that as an idea is obviously a great thing. But it's to me, it's not working. I know they tried upping it to 2 from 1 a few years ago. It really hasn't worked. To me, it's now if it wasn't there, I think teams would just try to grab the best candidates possible. Now they're like, oh, it puts a little pressure, we have to interview a minority candidate, or we're going to be called something horrible that we're not. So I just don't think the rule will. I think it would, honestly, I think minority candidates would get more opportunities if the rule wasn't in place, personally. But Vrabel, I think we'll get that job. The Saints head coach search, they have scheduled interviews with Aaron Glenn, Mike Kafka, and Mike Vrabel. They requested an interview with Anthony Weaver, Kellen Moore, and Joe Brady. Again, that's not a very good job. They are in cap hell. They have been for ages. Their roster was really old. Isn't very good. And they're in a really bad division, but, it's a situation that their roster needs a lot of work. Also, I don't trust the GM there making looms. I don't know how that guy still has a job. It's been there for 22 years. He's the reason they're in cap hell. I'm hearing it's probably going to be Aaron Glenn. I think he's probably the best fit there. He's been connected there for a while. He's the favorite right now. See what happens. And then the New York Jets, again, too wide of a search with the New York Jets. This one is bad. So they interviewed Vrabel. They interviewed Ron Rivera, the former Panthers and Commanders coach. They interviewed Rex Ryan, of course, coach of Jets from 2009 to 2014. Has been working for ESPN for a while. They scheduled an interview with Olbert's the interim coach. That's just probably just a formality kind of thing. He's not a head coach, obviously. They scheduled an interview with Matt Nagy, the Chiefs offensive coordinator, the awful former Bears head coach. They scheduled an interview with Aaron Glenn, and they scheduled interviews with, and they requested interviews with Bobby Sloak, the OC in Houston, Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator with the Vikings, former Dolphins coach, Arthur Smith, the Steelers offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, Vance Joseph, the Broncos defensive coordinator, Brian Griese, the quarterback's coach for the 49ers, Josh McCown, the Vikings quarterback's coach and the former Jet quarterback, Darren Rizzi, the interim coach for the Saints, and Spagnuolo. Again, look at the names on his list. Ron Rivera is a great guy. Now, take him as defensive coordinator. He was a head coach in this league for, 12 years and had 2 winning seasons. So, great guy, but not a good head coach. Slovak is a guy who's lost a lot of stock. Your Arthur Smith has proven not to be a good head coach. Van Joseph was proven to be a horrible head coach. Same thing with Nagy. Brian Griese, like, if his last name wasn't Griese, if his dad wasn't the quarterback of the 72 Dolphins, would he even be in the league? Like, I like McCown. He did a good job as a quarterback coach with the Vikings. He worked with Sam Darnold was here, obviously. So, of course, they're friends when they were both players on the Jets. And I wouldn't mind if he was the offensive coordinator. He probably deserves that promotion. But head coach already, not ready for it. Darren Rizzi, the interim coach of the Saints? Are you freaking kidding me? Spagnuolo already went over that? Ugh. Like, you're not even interviewing Ben Johnson, who I don't think wants the job. At least give him a call. Like, the ownership there. Also, can we get a GM first, please? For the love of God. They're going to screw this up. They're going to hire freaking, like, Arthur Smith or some crap. And their GMs are just really deep, too. They interviewed Louis Riddick, the ESPN analyst, which I don't mind. I do think he deserves to be a GM somewhere. Jim Nagy, the senior role executive director. That's just embarrassing. John Robinson, the god-awful Titans GM, was there from 2016 to 2022. Thomas Dimitroff, the Falcons GM, from 08 to 2020. He didn't finish well, but overall had a decent tenure there. Alec Halby, the Eagles assistant GM, and they requested to interview Ray Farmer, the Rams senior personnel executive. Again, he's proven to be a bad GM in Cleveland. They scheduled an interview with Mike Borgonzi, the chief assistant GM. They scheduled an interview with John Eric Sullivan, their own VP of player personnel. They hire from within the organization. That I will cry in a corner for years. That's just terrible. They also requested Ryan Grigson, the Vikings senior vice president of player personnel. He wasn't great in Indianapolis as a GM. I'm not sure if that's what I want. Mike Greenberg, the Bucs assistant GM, who is a local guy. He's from New York. Actually, he lives in about 40 minutes from where I live. Trey Brown, the Bengals senior personnel executive, and Brian Gain, the Bills assistant GM. Again, too deep of the search. They're going to screw this up. Like, who I think he should hire? I think Louis Riddick should get a shot somewhere. I think Borgonzi, he's been with a great front office. He probably deserves a shot. Brian Gain, you could argue, may deserve a shot. Other than that, like Dimitroff, overall was pretty good there. That wouldn't be a horrible hire. Like, John Robinson's terrible. Jim Nagy, just stop. Like, Alec Halby, maybe he deserves a shot. Like, Ray Farmer and Ryan Grigson are proven to not be good at this. John Eric Sullivan, just stop. This is a disaster. And it's having to have a 17-year running the organization. Well, what a joke. And the Titans GM, they requested 5 candidates. Borgonzi, Catherine Hickman, the Browns assistant GM. Terrence Gray, a Bills personnel executive. Ed Dodds, the Colts assistant GM. He's been a top candidate for a while. And John Spytek, the Bucs assistant GM. So, Borgonzi, he's been a hot candidate for a while. Ed Dodds has been a top candidate for a while. The Colts front office isn't exactly good, but he's been a top candidate. Spytek has as well. Bucs front office, they're just kind of okay. Terrence Gray, not familiar with him, but he's from the Bills. Could be worse. Though Catherine Hickman, that would be groundbreaking, but the Browns front office hasn't exactly done a whole lot of great things either. So that's what we got for the NFL head coach and general manager carousel so far. All right, so I'm going to do my final NFL power ranking with the regular season having closed. At 32 is the New York Giants. I have them as the worst team in football, even below the Tennessee Titans. They are just horrible. So you cut Daniel Jones midseason. When your starting quarterback gets cut midseason, then you know it's bad. From Drew Lock to Tommy DeVito, going back and forth. They were horrible this year. They brought back Dable and Shane. I mean, to me, Dable lost the locker room, so I would have probably moved on. However, you also hadn't had a head coach last more than 3 years since you fired Tom Coughlin, which was, 9, 10, 12 years ago. So that would not be a very good job. It would not be an attractive job. And Shane's just been horrible. So, they need, they're going to, obviously, quarterback, they're going to need, we'll see what they do with the third pick. The offensive line still needs some work. They need another receiver, probably. Defensively, they could probably use some help in the secondary. We'll see what they do with that third pick. But Joe Schimmer and Michelle, I'm not sure how confident I am. At 31st, I have the Tennessee Titans. Their offensive line is absolutely horrible. J.C. Latham, I think, is playing out of position. Skoronski, he's just a weird player. I'm not sure if he's even any good. And obviously, there's no quarterback there. You have one true weapon with Calvin Ridley. I think he's a 2, not a 1. Power's a pretty good back, and you have Spears there. But defensively, you also, especially just days of free agent, you have to either replace or re-sign him. You could use help in secondary as well with some pending free agents over there. So, Titans have a lot of work to do, and they don't even have a general manager right now, so I'm not really sure what they're doing. At 30th, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's a bad organization, and that's a really bad roster. You got Trevor Lawrence coming off an injury. They're offensively, they have some pretty good pieces. Etienne's not a bad back. Yeah, Brian Thomas is really good. You have Kirk there, is coming off an injury. Defensively, they're just so bad. They are beyond just horrid. Like Trevor Walker, who should have taken over Ian Hudson, he has to turn into a good pass rusher. And then Devin Lloyd's a pretty good linebacker. Other than that, there is not a whole lot over there. They're going to need to really revamp the defensive side of the ball, and you have a GM that no one trusts and may or may not be there in a week, and you don't have a coach. So they're in a bad spot. At 29th is the Raiders, who they have 6th pick right now, don't have a coach, bad organization. Their roster is atrocious. Besides Brock Bowers and Max Crosby, you don't have a quarterback. They can't. Their running game is horrible. You don't have a true number 1 wide receiver. Their O-line isn't horrible, but defensively outside of Max Crosby, you're really bad. So I don't know what they're going to do. 28th is the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, really rough year for them. They have a 2nd pick in the draft. Obviously, they did this themselves with Deshaun Watson. By the way, it's hilarious seeing Baker Mayfield have over 4,000 yards, over 30 touchdowns, and he's in the playoffs. And the Browns, by the end of the year, we're starting Bailey freaking Zappi, for crying out loud. The rest of their roster isn't horrible, but Nick Chubb seems like he's at the end. His body's breaking down. I'm not sure if Ford is a true number 1 back. You don't have a number 1 receiver. Joju did play very well this year, but you trade him or Cooper away. The offensive line had a ton of injuries. You had a ton of injuries on defense. Myles Garrett isn't happy over there. It'll be interesting to see. Will they take a quarterback with that 2nd pick? I could see them maybe trading back. Do you give Jameis Winston a shot to compete for the job? Do you bring in another quarterback to compete with Watson? What do you do? Big question mark there. 27th is the New York Jets. They finished at 5-12. You won less games with Aaron Rodgers than you did with Zach Wilson, that crew the year before. Embarrassing. This is an embarrassing year for the Jets. Willie Johnson is the worst owner in the sport to me. I think he's surpassed David Tepper. Just god-awful. They have some pieces there offensively. Breece Hall is a good back. Gary Wilson's a great receiver. Devontae Adams is still very good. They have a pretty good offensive line. Defensively, there are pieces there. Quinn Williams a stud. Will McDonald play really well. You got Jermaine Johnson coming back next year. Mosley, if he's healthy next year, is a great linebacker. Sauce Gardner looked like himself down the stretch. He's a great corner. Michael Carter is a good slot corner. You are probably going to lose DJ Reed's unfortunate because he's a very good corner as well. But look, they need a quarterback, obviously. Aaron Rodgers, you have to move on. You got to move on. He's not fully invested. He just isn't the same player anymore. You have to move on. After June 1st, you're able to do it. That you should do so. But also, what are you going to do? Well, there's not really a quarterback I think you should draft. When you have the 7th pick right now. you know, that's a team I think that they should inquire about J.J. McCarthy. I'm not sure if I would trip a 7th pick in the draft for J.J. McCarthy. However, maybe if you swap picks with the Vikings, you would move back very far in the first round, but you still have a first-round pick. And then, you send over a couple of mid-round, maybe like a third, maybe like a 3 to 5, and maybe a 2 or 3 next year. The Vikings to throw you a 4 or 5. Maybe you can make it work. But roster-wise, there isn't a whole lot of fixing to do outside of the quarterback. Probably need upgraded right tackle, maybe an upgrade in the secondary besides Sauce Gardner. But just again, also with Willie Rodgers from Michelle, they're going to pick their own coach and GM. I can already feel it. 26th is the Bears. Look, they did it to themselves with Caleb Williams. This is a mess. The ownership is horrible. Even the fans know, yeah, it's like Jets fans, until they sell a team. Big Cat on the Barstool podcast is saying it. Freaking CM Punk, the wrestler, was on some NFL coverage a few weeks ago. He's a big Chicago guy, so obviously he's a Bears fan. He said, yeah, until McCaffrey sells a team, it seems going nowhere. They're probably going to pick the wrong coach. Apparently, Poles could get fired if the coach doesn't want him there. A couple of situations are like that, which is weird. It's just same kind of thing in Jacksonville. A lot of bad GMs in the sport as well. The rest of the roster is very good. They have pieces there. Swift's a good back. You have receiver. J.J. Moore is great. Odunde's talented. Komet is talented. They just choose not to use him. And Keenan Allen's going to be a free agent. If I'm him, I'm getting the hell out of there. They have some pieces defensively, but also, you have a young quarterback who's a head case. You don't have a coach right now, and the offensive line needs a lot of work too, especially with Tevin Jenkins, who's probably your best lineman, going to hit the open market. And again, because of how toxic the situation from Tevin Jenkins, I'm getting the hell out of there. 25th is the Patriots. Look, if they bring in the right coach, you have a very good young quarterback in Drake May, who seems to be very talented. The roster, though, is horrible. The offensive line is atrocious. You have probably the worst O-line in the league. You have one of the worst receiving corps in the league. You need a true number one desperately. That's why I was saying last year I would, start Brissett for a year and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Obviously, it worked out. You got Drake Mandel. He looks like they found their guy. And defensively, you desperately need a top pass rusher. You could use maybe another piece as well. Yeah, you had injuries with, Barmore missing time, Bentley missing a lot of time. So, but yeah, they got to find a coach. I mean, it's a stable organization. They just got to improve the roster. However, $130 million in cap space and the 4th pick in the draft, you have the assets to do so. 24 versus Carolina Panthers. They looked a lot better. Bryce Young looked a lot better in the second half of the year after getting benched. The problem is, that defense is horrible. They're going to need to completely revamp that defense. Also, offensively, they could use a top receiver for Bryce Young as well. So you will see what they do, but looks a little more promising now. 23rd is the Saints. Yes, I have the Panthers. Yeah, I mean, the Panthers are a little more... You could have argued the Panthers were actually better than the Saints. I mean, they did beat them one time this year. Saints, God. They don't have a coach right now, obviously. That's not a very good job. Their GM, Mickey Loomis, is just... I don't even think he cares anymore. They're in cap hell. Their quarterback, Derek Carr, is at the end of his career on a big contract, coming off an injury. Their roster is old. It isn't that good. Their whole offense was hurt this year. Their defense is horrible. Cameron Jordan's a good player, but he's at the very end of his career. DeMar Davis is still very good. Again, he's at the back end of his career. The rest of the defense is horrible. Now, offensively, Kamara's still a good back, but he's at the back end of his career. Chris Olave is great, but he's got some injury problems. He's had a lot of concussion issues. And just, the rest of their roster is terrible, and they have no way to fix it. And we'll have the 10th pick. The 11th pick was here. Come on. 22nd, the Indianapolis Colts. That organization is just a complete disaster. Steichen, I don't know much. I'm surprised he didn't get fired, honestly. He has completely mishandled the quarterback situation there. Chris Ballard is just freaking terrible as the GM. Ursay is a drunk idiot as their owner. Their organization is just horrible. The thing is, the roster isn't horrible. You have some pieces there. Terrell's a great back. You have a couple of good receivers with Pittman and Downs. And you have some pieces on the offensive line. You have even a couple pieces on defense. DeForest Buckner is really good. So you have a couple pieces there, but just, first of all, the defense, besides Buckner, there isn't a ton more else over there. They need to improve the defense a lot. They have to line use a piece or two, and also Anthony Richardson has looked really rough so far. He's got one more chance, otherwise this is going to go really south very fast. 21st, the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones just doesn't care. Because Jerry Jones' mind, I think he's looking at this as, my fans are going to beat their chest, and this is a year every single year. It doesn't matter what I do. All I have to do is feel a somewhat competent team that can win at least even 7 games like they did this year, maybe 9 or 10, maybe sneak into the playoffs and lose in the first round. I think that's the point. He just doesn't care anymore. He won 3 Super Bowls back in the 90s. He doesn't care about the last 30 years. That team, I mean, they've let a lot of talented players go. You let a lot of talented coaches go. Kellen Moore. I would have much rather him as the offensive coordinator over Brian Schottenheimer. I would have much rather Dan Quinn as the defensive coordinator over whoever the hell it is now. I would much rather. I think this probably as a head coach over Mike McCarthy. He might bring him back now. He might renew his contract. I don't know what's going on. You have one true weapon in CB Lamb. The defense isn't very good outside of Micah Parsons. Diggs is always hurt. Bland's always hurt. You don't really have a lot of cap space. You got to pay Micah Parsons. That's just a disaster situation. And also, you didn't run the ball all season because you couldn't. In 20th is the San Francisco 49ers. You have... That's another one. Look, obviously, the talent when healthy is as good as it gets in this league, but Purdy didn't have a great year. But a lot of guys were hurt. McCaffrey missed most of the year. Ayuk missed most of the year after crying for a contract on the offseason, which he ended up getting. Kittle missed time. Devo missed time. Jordan Mason, who was the backup running back, who was playing great, he missed a lot of time. You're on your 4th back. Patrick Taylor, which you're starting back by the end of the year. On defense, Hargrave missed a lot of time. Hufanga missed a lot of time. Drake Greenlaw missed most of the year. So just a disastrous year for the 49ers. So, I mean, first of all, you can't pay Brock Purdy $58 million. You just can't do it. You can't. I'm sorry. You can't. And, the offensive line is terrible, especially when Trent Williams is missing time. And the secondary could use some work. You're probably going to lose Hufanga, who was hurt a lot the last 2 years, but when healthy is an all-pro. Drake Greenlaw, again, missed a lot of time. Didn't play much this year, but when healthy is an all-pro linebacker. You're probably going to lose those 2 guys. And, I can see them having to, maybe move Deebo Samuel might have to get moved, and now you're going to have Ayuk, who I'm not sure is the number 1 wide receiver. I'm not sure what, McCaffrey is great, but he's going to be, 29 years old, coming off a major injury. It's going to be hard to, and they don't really have the money to improve their roster. So I don't really know what they're going to do. Again, if they're all healthy and they all play to their full potential, obviously they could win 13 games next year, but if they're hurt again, it's going to be the same thing. And they may have missed their window, to be honest. On the Arizona Cardinals, we're at 19th. Look, I like Gannon, the head coach there, but Kyler is just... the guy's a head case. He really isn't that good. Obviously, you have pieces there. Marvin Harrison, obviously, is an incredibly talented receiver. And there are some young pieces on both sides of the ball, but they desperately need another pass rusher. I might add another receiver there as well. But you're stuck with Kyler. I don't should try and move him, but no one's going to take that freaking contract. 18th is the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, they're moving forward with Michael Penix. Heard they might bring Kirk Cousins back as a backup. He became a $40 million backup, first of all. That's just absurd. I mean, they did this to themselves. That organization has no idea what they're doing. Raheem Morrison's a horrible coach. Who's the GM there? Brett Holmes. He has done a great job to me. Again, there's pieces there. On offense, Bijan, Drake London, Darnell Mooney. Kyle Pitts once, I don't know, every 6 games. I mean, defensively, they've massively underperformed. But Judon was an amazing player a couple of years ago. He did nothing for them this year. You have guys like Deion Jones and AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates over there, but just it did not work out this year. They're going to need a lot of help defensively, and they may for sure, but what his organization is built is just not good. 17th is Miami Dolphins. But I don't know what I see in Mike McDaniel. He's not a good head coach. They can't play in the They can't play in the cold weather. They can't beat good teams. Tua is mediocre. He's 1 concussion away from retiring, if you ask me. Now it was Terry Kildrum. Apparently, he's recommitted to the team. I found that hard to believe after what you said from him. that seems like a guy who's like, yeah, he said I'm out, so I don't know how it could be any more clear than that. Defensively, they're not great. Maybe if their pass rush is a little healthier this year, if Phillips and Chubb are healthy going into the year, maybe it'll help. But you drafted Chubb Robinson this year too. But yeah, I don't. Javon Holland might leave him for agency, so I don't really know what they do. Their ceiling is capped because they're sticking with Tua and McKinnon. I mean, you're stuck with Tua because you just paid him $1 zillion. But I don't know. And Chris Greer, he's a good GM, not good enough to me. 60 for the Cincinnati Bengals. They're also going to need to improve defensively. Joe Burrow's amazing. Chase is amazing. I'll say Chase Brown could be a superstar back next year. But T. Higgins is a free agent. The offensive line isn't very good, and the defense isn't very good. And with Burrow making $1 zillion, and you're about to pay, you may have to find a way to re-sign T. Higgins. You still got to pay Jamar Chase. Defensively, you have Henderson there still. Level big in sacks this year. They're obviously going to need a new coordinator. The personnel isn't as bad, probably, as it should be, as it seemed. You had the league leader in sacks. B.J. Hill was really good. Is a good player. You have Sam Hubbard. You have Jermaine Pratt. You have Mike Hilton. So, the personnel actually is pretty solid. I just think they were misguided. That being said, B.J. Hill's a very good D-tackle. He's going to hit the open market. Mike Hilton's a good corner, especially in the slot. He's hitting the open market. We lost Jesse Bates a couple of years ago, so DJ was a big loss. I mean, you lost all these pieces because you're paying Joe Burrow so much. Not that he doesn't deserve it. He's a phenomenal quarterback. This year was top 3 quarterback in the league. He's easily top 5 in the NFL. But if you've already lost all these pieces, and if T. Higgins is next, and B.J. Hill and Mike Hilton follow him up the door, at some point you're like, you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, nobody else. So, but they're going to have to revamp that defense. They need a big name defensive coordinator, whatever. It's like a Robert Saleh or somebody like that. They're going to have to hire somebody like that. Seattle is at 15. Obviously, quarterback is a question mark. Will they bring back Geno Smith? Sam Howell looked really bad in that game. I don't see much confidence in him. I actually like the pieces they have. They have a lot of nice weapons. Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet at back, DK Lockett. J.S. Haddon's been really good at receiver. The offensive line is going to need to be better. They're very young. They're going to need to develop, and they're probably need to add some pieces. I actually like their defense. Their defense is very young, but I like a lot of the guys I have. With Nowusu off the edge. You got obviously you have in the secondary. I think they have a lot of nice pieces with Witherspoon and Wu in a corner. You have Jordan Love's a good player. So I actually like a lot of the guys I have on defense. McDonald's is a young head coach, what I think is pretty good. I mean, they won 10 games this year. They were just in they won 10 games this year? They weren't a bad team. Yeah, I think they need a quarterback that can elevate that offense a little bit more. I think it's what they really need. But again, you don't have a high enough pick to get one. Is there a veteran you'll be able to get? That's going to be a clear upgrade over Geno Smith? Is Kirk Cousins a clear upgrade over Geno Smith at this point? I don't think so. Do you go back to Russell Wilson? God, the script writers would be in their bag if they brought back Russell Wilson. Wow. But yeah, they actually have a pretty good core. 14 is the Denver Broncos. We're also getting to the playoff teams now. Bo Nix overall played very well as a rookie. That defense is absolutely incredible. They had a great season this year. Kudos to Vance Joseph, the corner there, and that defense. 13th is the Houston Texans. Disappointing year, honestly. They ended up at the same record they had last year. Stroud took a step back. A lot of injuries on the offensive line. A lot of injuries too. Mixon missed time. Collins missed time. Diggs is out for the year since week 8. Obviously, Tank Dell devastating injury. He might not play next year either. That defense is very good, but they're going to need CJ Stroud next year. Take a step forward. I won't go in too much into the team needs the playoff teams. I'll do it after the playoffs is over at some point. 12 is the Bucks. Baker Mayfield, man. You got away from the Browns and the Panthers, and the guy can develop into a very, very good quarterback. Mike Evans, 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Bucky Irving also stepped up as a rookie this year at the running back position. 11 but the Steelers. They're in the playoffs again. They're losing the first round again, but they're in, I guess. The defense is very good. I mean, it was before the last month of the year. I guess. Not much to say over there. At 10, I have the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh. What a great coach that guy is. Herbert's incredible. Lam McConkey had a great rookie year. That defense is really good. Ninth is the Rams. Stafford can still sling it. Still a good quarterback. A lot of pieces offensively over there with who's the running back over there? Kyron Williams. You have Cooper Kupp. Puka Nacua is incredible. And that defense got better and better as the year went on. A lot of young pieces up there. Kobe Turner. You just drafted Jared Verse. So many, Byron Young. A lot of pieces of very young defense. And I told you at the start of the year, they have a young defense that's going to improve as the year goes on, and their guys are going to step up. And they did. That's a dangerous team. They drew a tough matchup in the first round against the Vikings, but if they pull off an upset after that, who knows? Avis, the Ravens. Lamar had another incredible year. Derrick Henry, that guy is a beast. Hall of Famer, by the way. 1,900 rushing yards this year. He didn't even lead the league in rushing, which is crazy. That's how great Saquon Barkley was for the Eagles this year. They're going to miss Zay Flowers in that first playoff game. I think they'll still win the game. Steelers are just a downward spiral right now. The defense wasn't quite as great this year. Lost a few players. A lot of their coaches left too from the year before. Mike McDonald got the head coach job in Seattle. Took some guys with him. A couple of guys got some coordinator jobs as well. I think the DB coach from the year before went to Jacksonville to be the coordinator. Same thing with Anthony Weaver, went to Miami to be the coordinator. But that's still a very good team. 7th Washington Commanders. What a year they had. 12-5. Jane Daniels, offensive rookie of the year. What a just phenomenal player he is. Terry McLaurin showed people why he's so underrated. Great receiver. They made enough plays defensively. Adam Pierce, the GM, he did a very good job. Running a lot of key vets, but Bobby Wagner played really well for them. Frankie Louvu played really well for them on defense. Even Duranes Armstrong. They made a lot of moves they made. It really worked out for them. And obviously, he nailed Jane Daniels with the 2nd overall pick. 6 is the Green Bay Packers. This team is very good. Again, they have a tough matchup in the first round against the Eagles, but Jordan Love overall played well. They have a lot of nice pieces offensively. Jaden Reed and Dubes, Kraft. The running game with Josh Jacobs. What a signing that guy was. And defensively, they were a lot better. They have some nice pieces. Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark. I know he's hurt now, but Jari Alexander. You have a lot of nice pieces over there. We'll see what they do against the Eagles. 5th is the Eagles. Saquon Barkley, what an addition that guy was. Hurts. He's overrated, but he's obviously got a great team around him. A.J. Brown's great. Devonta Smith is very good. You have Goddard. Defensively, they were a lot better. Kuzvic, Fangio, the corner over there. With, you obviously always Georgia guys with Javen Carter over there, and all those big guys up front. They were better in the secondary with, Cooper DeJean. Had a very good year as a rookie. 2nd round pick. I told you she should have been the 1st round pick. They have a great team. 4th is the Vikings. Obviously, Sam Darnold. What a great good year for him. Kevin O'Connell should be a coach of the year candidate for sure. Should probably win, to be honest. If I probably who I'd vote for, honestly. I probably definitely can't be Mike Tomlin anymore. He might get fired if they lose to the Ravens, which they probably will. And obviously, Justin Jefferson, that defense, Brian Flores did a great job with that defense. They were phenomenal all year, especially up front. Chiefs are 3rd. Not as dumb as they once were, but, still won 15 games. Mahomes still had a good year. They had a lot of injuries, but they fought through them. Obviously, you brought in D-Hop. Hollywood Brown is back. Obviously, so is Travis Kelce. The defense is still really good. I will be surprised if they were a Super Bowl again. 2nd is the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen was incredible this year. James Cook had a breakout year. The receiver stepped up. A little inconsistent defensively, but they won 14 games. 13, 14 games. They were 2 seed. To me, this is their best shot to get to the Super Bowl. Number 1's the Lions. All those injuries, and you're still the best team in the league. Goff played really well. That offense is really explosive. Defensively, despite all their injuries, still were able to get the job done. And Aiden Hutchinson, who's one of your best players, period, on a really talented football team, has been out most of the year with the broken arm. Though he might come back in the Super Bowl if they get there. You have I think 6 defensive linemen now. You have 4 linebackers out. You got your number 2 corner Carlton Davis, who had a great year. He broke his jaw a few weeks ago. By the way, those 2 safeties are great. Especially Kerber Joseph. Leads the league in picks. Absolute dog. Peachtree first-team All-Pro. And Brian Branch is really good, too. And, Dan Campbell is an amazing coach. To me, he's the best coach in football. Corners, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn should be head coaches. And, who's the GM over there? Actually, no. I think the Brett Holmes last name was in Atlanta. That's a mistake. He's in Detroit. Phenomenal job. He has built an incredible roster. He is one of the best GMs in all of football. That's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.